My dear wonderful friends, tonight we will explore one of the most powerful yet misunderstood principles in the art of manifestations, the divine law of silence and selective association. Many of you have come to me asking, Wayne, why do my manifestations sometimes fail? Or why do things seem to fall apart just when they're about to succeed? Tonight, I will share with you a profound truth that will transform your understanding of the law. Let me begin by telling you why silence is not merely the absence of speech, but the very foundation of your creative power. In Scripture, we read, "Be still and know that I am God." This stillness, this divine silence, is not a mere suggestion. It is the very secret of creation itself. Consider how God created the world. Did he announce his intentions to anyone? Did he seek validation or approval? No, my dear friends. In the depths of silence, in the quiet of his own being, he spoke the words, "Let there be." And it was done. This is your pattern. This is your blueprint. Iron Maiden came to me in New York. She had been trying to manifest a specific position in her company, a position that seemed impossible to obtain given her current status. She had told everyone about her desire, seeking advice, validation, and support. For months, nothing happened. Then she heard this principle of silence and everything changed. She did something remarkable. She cut off all discussion of her desire. She stopped seeking opinion, stopped announcing her intentions. And most importantly, she went into what I call the sacred silence. Within 3 weeks, not only was she offered the position she desired, but she was offered an even better one she hadn't even imagined possible. You see, when you speak of your desires to others, you are diffusing your creative power. Every time you discuss your intentions, you are releasing the pressure of the creative force that should be building within you. It's like puncturing a balloon before it's fully inflated. The air escapes and the balloon never reaches its intended form. Let me share with you what I call the law of sacred silence. This law states that every desire has its own gestation period, just as every seed has its own time of growth. When you plant a seed in the ground, you dig it up every day to check its progress. You tell everyone about the seed you've planted and ask their opinion on whether it will grow. Of course not. You plant it in the silence of the earth and let it grow undisturbed. Your desires are spiritual seeds, and your consciousness is the soil in which they grow. Every time you speak of your desires to others, you are essentially digging up your seed to show it to the world. How can it grow if you don't give it the silence it needs to take root? But tonight, I want to take you deeper than you've ever gone before into understanding why cutting all contacts is equally crucial to your manifestation. This is not about isolation. It's about insulation. You must insulate your consciousness from the doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs of others. Consider the story of Noah. Before the flood came, he was instructed to enter the ark and seal it. This is not a historical account, but a psychological drama playing out in consciousness. The ark represents your consciousness, and sealing it represents cutting off contact with all that would disturb your assumption of the wish fulfilled. Many of you maintain relationships and connections that constantly pull you back into old states of consciousness. You try to rise to a new level of being while staying connected to those who know you as you were, not as you desire to be. This is like trying to fly while keeping your feet chained to the ground. Let me tell you about a student of mine who understood this principle perfectly. He desired to move from poverty to wealth, but he realized that his daily associations were keeping him anchored in the consciousness of lack. His friends, though well-meaning, constantly spoke of limitations, of how difficult it was to make money, of how the economy was against them. He made a bold decision. He temporarily cut all contacts that reinforced the old state of poverty consciousness. He didn't do this unkindly or abruptly, but he quietly withdrew from circles that kept him tied to the old state. Instead of spending evenings discussing lack with his usual companions, he went into silence and lived in the assumption of his wish fulfilled. The results were extraordinary. Within 6 months, his entire financial reality transformed. But notice something crucial. He didn't announce his intentions to withdraw. He didn't make declarations about cutting contacts. He simply did it in silence with the same naturalness with which you would close the door to keep out the cold. Now, let me share with you what I call the 3 chambers of silence. The first chamber is physical silence, the cessation of speaking about your desires. The second chamber is mental silence, the quieting of internal chatter and doubt. The third chamber, and most profound, is spiritual silence, the complete surrender to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Many of you enter the first chamber easily enough. You can stop talking about your desires. Some of you even master the second chamber, controlling your thoughts. But it's the third where the real power lies. And this chamber can only be entered when you cut the ties that bind you to your old state. Think of Lot's wife in Scripture. She was told not to look back at the city she was leaving. This is not a story about physical geography. It's about consciousness. When you're moving into a new state of being, you cannot keep looking back at the old state or maintaining connections with those who are not old state. Let me tell you about the law of state residence. Everything and everyone in your life is a reflection of the state you occupy. When you try to enter a new state while maintaining connections with those who resonate with your old state, you create a psychological conflict that prevents your complete transformation. I recall a gentleman in Los Angeles who desired to become a renowned author. He had TED ideas. But he remained stuck in obscurity. Why? Because he kept himself surrounded by people who knew him as a struggling writer. Their very presence in his life kept him anchored to that state of struggle. One day, after hearing these principles, he did something that seemed drastic to others, but was perfectly natural to him. He cut all contacts with his writing group, stopped attending literary gatherings where people complained about how hard it was to get published, and went into complete silence about his work. Instead of discussing his book with others, he lived in the silence of his completed wish. He would walk into bookstores and quietly see his book on the shelves. He would silently feel the weight of his published work in his hands. He stopped seeking validation, stopped asking for opinions, and most importantly, stopped connecting those who knew him as anything less than a successful author. Here's what you must understand about the power of cutting contacts. It's not about avoiding people. It's about avoiding states. Every person in your life represents a state of consciousness. When you maintain connections with those who know you in your old state, you're making it infinitely harder to fully occupy your new state. Consider the biblical instruction, come out from among them and be separate. This is not about physical separation, but about separating yourself from states that contradict your desire. When you truly understand this, you'll see why maintaining certain contacts keeps you bound to states you're trying to leave. Let me introduce you to what I call the principle of state solidarity. This principle states that your consciousness naturally seeks alignment with the predominant consciousness of those around you. This is why being around people who knew you in your old state makes it challenging to maintain your new assumption. Think of it like tuning a radio. You're trying to tune into the frequency of your desire, but the old contacts in your life keep pulling the dial back to the old frequency. The solution is not to fight against this pulling. The solution is to remove yourself from the range of the old frequency entirely. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Wayne, isn't it selfish to cut contacts with people? Let me tell you something profound. You're not cutting contact with people. You're cutting contact with states. When you successfully establish yourself in your new state, you'll find that some of these people will either transform with you or naturally fall away. Let me share with you what I call the law of silent transformation. When a caterpillar enters its cocoon, it doesn't announce its transformation. It doesn't seek approval from other caterpillars. It doesn't maintain connections with its caterpillar life. In perfect silence, in complete isolation, it undergoes its magnificent transformation. This is your pattern. When you're transforming into a new state of consciousness, you must enter your own psychological cocoon. This is why silence and cutting contacts are not just helpful suggestions. They are spiritual imperatives. I remember a woman in my New York lectures who desired marriage. She had been dating for years, constantly discussing her relationships with friends, always seeking advice, always maintaining connections with people who knew her as the single friend. She was constantly in what I call the state of seeking. After learning these principles, she did something revolutionary. She cut all contacts with her dating circles, stopped discussing relationships entirely, and withdrew from the constant social commentary about her love life. Instead, she went in complete silence and lived in the assumption of being happily married. Her friends thought she had become antisocial. Some even criticized her for withdrawing, but she understood something they didn't. She couldn't become the woman she desired to be while maintaining connections that kept her in the state of seeking. Here's what you must understand about the power of silence. It's not merely the absence of noise, it's the presence of power. When you go into silence about your desires, when you cut contacts with those who know you as you were, you are creating a vacuum in consciousness, and nature abhors a vacuum. Let me introduce you to the 4 stages of silent creation. The first stage is recognition, recognizing that your current contacts and conversations are keeping you bound to your old state. The second stage is withdrawal, quietly removing yourself from environments and relationships that reinforce the old state. The third stage is silence, maintaining complete silence about your transformation. The fourth stage is emergence, naturally revealing your new state once it's fully embodied. Most people fail because they try to skip stages. They recognize the need for change, but maintain all their old contacts. They try to withdraw, but keep announcing their withdrawal. They attempt silence, but keep checking if it's working. Remember, a seed doesn't grow faster because you keep checking on it. Consider Joseph in Scripture. When he received his dream of greatness, did he maintain connections with those who knew him as a slave? No, he was separated from all his old contacts, placed in what appeared to be adverse circumstances. But these very circumstances were preparing him for his transformation. This brings us to what I call the principle of sacred separation. Just as a pregnant woman carries her unborn child in the silence and privacy of her womb, you must carry your desire in the silence and privacy of your consciousness. Every time you discuss it, every time you maintain contact with those who doubt it, you're exposing your unborn desire to harmful elements. Let me tell you about a businessman who came to me in desperate circumstances. His company was failing, and he had been constantly discussing his problems with everyone who would listen. His entire network consisted of people who knew him as the owner of a struggling business. I shared with him these principles, and he understood them at a deep level. He stopped attending business networking events where people discussed market difficulties. He cut contacts with his commiseration circle, those friends who gathered to share business troubles. He went into complete silence about his company status. Instead of seeking advice, he sought silence. Instead of maintaining connections that reinforced failure, he insulated his consciousness in the assumption of success. To the outside world, he seemed to have become a recluse. But in the silence of his consciousness, a transformation was taking place. What happened next illustrates perfectly what I call the law of silent attraction. Within 3 months, his business began attracting opportunities that had been there all along, but were invisible to him while he was in the state of struggle and constant discussion. You see, when you're constantly talking about your problems, constantly maintaining contacts with those who reinforce your limitations, you're blind to the opportunities surrounding you. Let me share with you the deeper metaphysical reason why silence and cutting contacts are so crucial. In Scripture, we read, "In returning and rest shall ye be saved, in quietness and in confidence shall be your strength." This is not merely poetic language. It's a precise description of the law of consciousness. When you maintain silence and cut contacts with the old state, you're doing something profound. You're creating what I call a consciousness vacuum. Nature must fill this vacuum, but it can only fill it with whatever corresponds to your assumed state. Consider this principle. Every person in your life is a mirror reflecting back to your state of consciousness. When you maintain contacts with those who knew you in your old state, you're constantly being reminded of who you were, not who you desire to be. This is why cutting contacts is not an act of rejection, but an act of spiritual wisdom. I remember a teacher who came to me. She had been trying to manifest a position at a prestigious university, but she kept herself surrounded by colleagues who knew her as a struggling substitute teacher. Every conversation, every interaction, every relationship reinforced her current state. She understood these principles and did something that seemed radical to others. She quietly withdrew from her regular social circles. She stopped attending teachers' gatherings where the conversation centered around limited opportunities. She cut contacts with those who consistently reminded her of her current circumstances. Instead, she went into what I call the silence of assumption. In this silence, free from the constant reinforcement of her old state, she lived completely in the assumption of being a distinguished professor. She didn't tell anyone about this inner transformation. She didn't seek validation. She simply lived in the silence of her fulfilled desire. Here's what you must understand about the power of sacred isolation. When you isolate yourself from influences that contradict your desired state, you're not being antisocial, you're being spiritually wise. Just as a scientist must create a controlled environment for certain experiments, you must create a controlled environment in consciousness for your transformation. Let me introduce you to what I call the 7 seals of silence. The first seal is physical withdrawal, removing yourself from environments that reinforce the old state. The second seal is social disconnection, cutting contacts with those who know you only as you were. The third seal is conversational silence, refusing to discuss your transformation or desire. The fourth seal is mental quietude, silencing the internal dialogue about your past state. The fifth seal is emotional stillness, maintaining calm confidence in your assumption. The sixth seal is spiritual insulation, protecting your consciousness from doubt and disbelief. The seventh seal is complete absorption, living entirely in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Each of these seals must be maintained if you wish to complete your transformation. Wrecking even one seal can allow the old state to seep back into your consciousness. Consider the biblical story of the 3 wise men. After they saw the Christ child, they were warned in a dream not to return to Herod. This is a psychological truth. Once you've conceived your new state, seeing the Christ child, you must not return to the old state, Herod. You must take another way home. Now let me share with you what I call the ultimate law of silent achievement. When you understand this law, you'll never again question the power of silence and selective contact. Every great achievement in history, every significant transformation has followed this pattern of silence and sacred isolation. Think of Jesus going into the wilderness for 40 days. Think of Buddha leaving his palace in social circles. Think of every great inventor, artist, or visionary who withdrew from society to birth their creation. This is not coincidence, it's law. Let me tell you about my own experience with this principle. When I first discovered these truths, I didn't announce them to the world. I went into silence. I cut contacts with those who knew me as the old man. In that silence, in that sacred isolation, I experienced what I call the great knowing. Here's what you must do starting tonight. First, make a solemn covenant with yourself, a covenant of silence. No more discussing your desires, your plans, your transformations with anyone. Second, begin what I call the great withdrawal, systematically cutting contacts with those who hold you in your old state. But remember, this is not about physical isolation. It's about state isolation. You're not rejecting people. You're rejecting states of consciousness that no longer serve your transformation. I'll share with you the 5 commands of silent power. Thou shalt not speak of thy desire to anyone. Thou shalt cut all contacts that anchor thee to the old state. Thou shalt live completely in the silence of thy wish fulfilled. Thou shalt not return to check on thy progress. Thou shalt maintain the silence until thy manifestation is complete. These commands are not suggestions, they are spiritual laws that must be obeyed if you wish to transform your reality. Consider this final principle I call the law of silent emergence. Just as a butterfly emerges from its cocoon only when its transformation is complete, you should only re-emerge into the world when your new state is fully embodied. Let me tell you about the 3 signs of complete transformation. First, when your new state feels more natural than your old state. Second, when maintaining silence requires no effort. Third, when your old contacts naturally fall away or transform to match your new state. Remember, my dear friends, that silence is not the absence of sound. It's the presence of power. Cutting contacts is not the absence of relationship. It's the presence of spiritual wisdom. As we conclude tonight's talk, I want to leave you with this final truth. Your world is your consciousness pushed out. Every person, every circumstance, every condition in your life is there because of the state you occupy. When you change your state in silence, when you cut contacts with the old state, you automatically change your world. Go forth now in doubt, not in fear. but in the absolute knowing that as you maintain your silence, as you cut contacts with the old state, your transformation must manifest. It's law. Remember these words from Scripture. Be still and know that I am God. This stillness, this silence, this sacred isolation, this is your path to transformation. And now, my dear wonderful friends, as we close this evening, take with you this solemn truth: your silence is your power. Your withdrawal from the old state is your pathway to the new. Maintain this silence, maintain this sacred isolation, and watch as your world transforms to match your silent assumption. For in the end, it is not in the noise of the world, but in the silence of your consciousness that all things are created. It is not in maintaining old contacts, but in sacred isolation that transformation occurs. Go now in silence and confidence in the absolute knowing that what you desire is already yours. For in consciousness, all things are possible to him who believes and maintains the silence of that belief. Good night and God bless you all. My dear friends, imagine standing before a vast, infinite ocean of possibility. This ocean, my beloved, is your consciousness, boundless, eternal, and ever responsive to your deepest beliefs and assumptions. Tonight we shall embark on a journey together, a journey into the very heart of creation itself. Our destination, a state of unwavering faith in the perfection of all things, a state where you act as if everything always works out for you. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Wayne, how can I possibly act as if everything always works out when my current reality shows me otherwise? And to you, I say this: your current reality is but a shadow, a reflection of past thoughts and beliefs. It holds no power over your future unless you grant it such power. The world you see is a world that was. The world you will inhabit is the world you are imagining now. Consider for a moment the words of that brave teacher who said, "All things are possible to him who believes." These are not mere words of comfort, my friends. They are profound truth, a law as immutable as gravity itself. For in this universe, belief is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. When you truly believe, when you act from the conviction that all is working out for your highest good, you set in motion forces beyond your current comprehension. Let me share with you a principle that, once grasped, will revolutionize your entire existence. It is this: the world is yourself pushed out. Every person, every circumstance, every event in your life is but an outpicturing of your own consciousness. When you change the content of your consciousness, when you alter your deep-seated beliefs about the nature of reality, the entire world must conform to this new pattern. So how does one begin to act as if everything always works out? It starts, my dear listeners, with a shift in perception. Instead of seeing the world as a place of struggle and strife, begin to see it as a playground of infinite possibility. Instead of viewing challenges as obstacles, see them as opportunities for growth and expansion. This is not mere positive thinking. This is a fundamental restructuring of your relationship with reality itself. Imagine for a moment that you are an actor on a grand stage. The play is your life, and you have been given a role to play. Now, what if I told you that you are not just the actor, but also the playwright, the director, and even the audience? What if I revealed to you that you have the power to rewrite the script at any moment, to direct the flow of events according to your deepest desires? This, my friends, is the essence of acting as if everything always works out for you. It is the recognition that you are the author of your own story, the creator of your own destiny. When you truly internalize this truth, when you allow it to permeate every fiber of your being, you will find that the universe itself conspires to bring about your good. But let me be clear. This is not about denying the existence of challenges or pretending that difficulties do not arise. Rather, it is about maintaining an unshakable faith that all things, all events, all circumstances are working together for your ultimate benefit. It is about trusting in the perfect unfolding of your life's journey, even when the path ahead seems uncertain or fraught with obstacles. Consider the life of Joseph in the biblical narrative. Sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused and imprisoned, he could have easily succumbed to despair. But Joseph maintained his faith. He acted as if everything was working out for him, even in the darkest of circumstances. And lo and behold, those very circumstances that seemed to spell his doom became the stepping stones to his ultimate triumph. You see, my dear friends, when you act as if everything always works out for you, you align yourself with the very creative power of the universe. You tap into a wellspring of infinite wisdom and intelligence that knows far better than your limited human mind how to bring about your highest good. Now, some of you might be wondering, but Wayne, how can I maintain this attitude when everything around me seems to be falling apart? And to you, I say this: your outer world is but a reflection of your inner assumptions. If you persist in the assumption that all is well, that all is working out for your highest good, then that must become your experience. Remember, the human imagination is not bound by the constraints of physical reality. In your imagination, you can be, do, or have anything you desire. And as you persist in imagining the ideal outcome, as you continue to act as if everything always works out for you, you will find that your outer world begins to reshape itself to match your inner vision. Let me share with you a technique that I have found immensely powerful in cultivating this state of being. Before you sleep each night, review your day as if everything had worked out perfectly. See in your mind's eye each event, each interaction, each circumstance resolving in the most favorable way possible. Feel the joy, the relief, the profound gratitude that accompanies this perfect unfolding of events. As you drift off to sleep in this state of perfect contentment, you are impressing upon your subconscious mind the true seat of creative power, the belief that everything always works out for you. And as you continue this practice night after night, you will find that your waking experiences begin to mirror your nightly imaginary acts. But remember, my friends, this is not about escaping into a fantasy world. It is about recognizing the true nature of reality, that the world of imagination is the real world, and the world of physical senses is but a shadow. When you act from this understanding, when you live from the state of knowing that everything always works out for you, you are not denying reality. You are creating it. Now let us delve deeper into the mechanics of this profound truth. Every experience you have ever had, every circumstance you have ever encountered, began first as a state of consciousness. Your beliefs, your assumptions, your habitual thoughts. These are the raw materials from which your reality is fashioned. When you adopt the state of consciousness that everything always works out for you, you are essentially tuning your mental radio to a frequency of perfect harmony and divine order. And just as surely as a radio receiver picks up the signals that match its frequency, so too will your life experience begin to reflect this new state of being. But here's the crucial point, my dear listeners: you must persist in this new state. You must be willing to ignore the evidence of your physical senses when they contradict your chosen assumption. This is where many falter on the path to mastery. They begin with great enthusiasm, declaring that everything always works out for them. But at the first sign of apparent failure or setback, they abandon their assumption and fall back into old patterns of thought. Remember, the physical world is always a few steps behind the world of imagination. There may be a time lag between your change in consciousness and its manifestation in your outer experience. During this period of transition, you must hold fast to your new assumption. You must continue to act as if everything always works out for you, even when your senses scream otherwise. This, my friends, is the true test of faith, not a blind faith in some external power, but a deep, abiding faith in the creative power of your own consciousness. It is a faith that says, though the entire world may seem to conspire against me, I know that everything is working out for my highest good. Now let me address a question that often arises when I speak on this subject. Some ask, but Wayne, if I act as if everything always works out for me, won't I become complacent? Won't I lose my drive to improve and overcome challenges? To this I say, acting as if everything always works out for you does not mean sitting idly by and expecting the world to cater to your every whim. Rather, it means approaching every situation, every challenge, every trinity with an unshakable confidence in your ability to navigate it successfully. When you truly embrace this mindset, you'll find that your actions become more inspired, more purposeful. You'll be moved to take bold steps that you might have hesitated to take before. You'll find yourself rising to meet challenges with enthusiasm rather than dread, seeing them as opportunities for growth and expansion rather than obstacles to be feared. Moreover, the state of being naturally aligns you with what I call your high self, that aspect of you that is one with the divine creative power of the universe. From this alignment flows a wisdom and intuition that far surpasses the limited reasoning of the human intellect. You'll find yourself guided to take actions that lead to your highest good, often in ways that your rational mind could never have conceived. Let me illustrate this with a personal anecdote. Many years ago, when I first arrived in New York City, I found myself in dire financial straits. By all outward appearances, my situation was hopeless. But instead of succumbing to despair, I chose to act as if everything was working out perfectly for me. I imagined myself living in abundance, sharing my understanding of the law with eager audiences. Now, had I relied solely on my human intellect, I might have frantically searched for any job that would pay the bills. But acting from the state of knowing that all was well, I was guided to take a series of seemingly irrational actions. These actions, which made little sense to my rational mind at the time, ultimately led me to the very opportunities I had imagined for myself. You see, when you act as if everything always works out for you, you open yourself to a higher intelligence, a divine wisdom that knows exactly how to bring about your good in ways that your limited human mind cannot fathom. But let me be clear, this is not about wishful thinking or naive optimism. It is about aligning yourself with the fundamental creative principle of the universe. It is about recognizing that you are not a helpless victim of circumstance, but a powerful creator shaping your reality through your consciousness. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Nebo, what about the really big problems in my life? Surely this principle can apply to everything and to you. I say there are no big or small problems in the eyes of the infinite. The same power that can manifest a parking space can manifest a mansion. The same principle that can heal a paper cut can heal a terminal illness. The only limits that exist are the limits you place on your own imagination. When you truly grasp this, when you begin to act from this understanding, you'll find that the distinction between possible and impossible begins to blur. You'll start to see that the only true impossibility is that which you decree to be so in your own mind. Let me share with you another powerful technique for embodying this state of being. Throughout your day, whenever you encounter a situation that seems challenging or problematic, pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, how would I approach this if I knew with absolute certainty that everything always works out for me? Feel the shift in your energy as you ask this question. Notice how your perspective changes, how solutions that were hidden before suddenly become apparent. This simple practice performed consistently can transform your entire life experience. But remember, my dear friends, this is not about denying or suppressing negative emotions. If you feel fear, anxiety, or doubt arising, acknowledge these feelings. Thank them for their intention to protect you. But then gently remind yourself of the greater truth. Everything always works out for you. As you continue to practice this, you'll find that these negative emotions begin to lose their grip on you. They may still arise, but they will pass through you like clouds in the sky, unable to shake your seated, knowing that all is well. Now let us address another aspect of this principle that is often misunderstood. Acting as if everything always works out for you does not mean that you will never face challenges or that your life will be free from apparent setbacks. Rather, it means that you approach these situations with a fundamentally different attitude. Instead of seeing challenges as obstacles, you begin to see them as opportunities for growth and expansion. Instead of viewing setbacks as failures, you see them as necessary course corrections on your journey to your desired outcome. This shift in perspective is crucial, for it allows you to maintain your chosen state of consciousness even in the face of pitiless And remember, it is your state of consciousness that determines your future experiences. Consider the life of any great achiever, any person who has left an indelible mark on the world. Without exception, you will find that their path was strewn with challenges, setbacks, and apparent failures. But what set them apart was their unshakable faith in their ultimate success, their ability to act as if everything was always working out for them, even in the darkest of times. Take, for example, the Wright brothers. For years, they labored to achieve powered flight, facing ridiculous financial hardship and countless failed attempts. But they persisted in their assumption that flight was possible, that all their efforts were leading them to success. And indeed, everything did work out for them in the end in a way that transformed the world. You see, my dear listeners, when you act as if everything always works out for you, you tap into a power that can move mountains. You align yourself with the very creative force of the universe, and in doing so, you become an unstoppable force of nature. But let me caution you, this is not about forcing outcomes or trying to control every aspect of your life. Rather, it is about surrendering to a higher wisdom, trusting in the perfect unfolding of your life's journey. It is about recognizing that the intelligence that beats your heart and grows your fingernails knows far better than your limited human mind how to bring about your highest good. When you truly embody this state of being, you'll find that you no longer need to struggle or strive in the way you once did. Your actions become more effortless, more inspired. You begin to flow with the current of life rather than constantly swimming against it. Now, some of you might be wondering, but Wayne, how can I maintain this state when the world around me seems so chaotic and unpredictable and to you? The world around you is a reflection of your own consciousness. When you change your consciousness, when you steadfastly hold to the assumption that everything always works out for you, you will find that the world reshapes itself to match this new pattern. Remember, your consciousness is the only true causated power in your life. External circumstances, no matter how seemingly solid or unchangeable, are always secondary to your state of being. When you truly grasp this, when you begin to live from this understanding, you will witness what can only be described as miracles in your life. But let me be clear, this is not about ignoring problems or pretending that challenges don't exist. It's about approaching these situations from a fundamentally different state of consciousness. It's about knowing deep in your bones that no matter what appears to be happening on the surface, everything is ultimately working out for your highest good. This knowing, this unshakable faith becomes your anchor in the storms of life. It becomes the lens through which you interpret every event, every circumstance. And as you persist in this state, you'll find that the storms themselves begin to calm, that the challenges that once seemed insurmountable begin to resolve themselves in ways you could never have anticipated. Now, let me share with you another powerful practice for embodying this state of being. Each night before you sleep, take a few moments to review your day. But instead of simply recounting the events as they occurred, reimagine them as if everything had worked out perfectly. See that difficult conversation with your boss transforming into a productive exchange that leads to new opportunities. Envision that financial setback resolving itself in a way that ultimately benefits you. Picture that health challenge leading you to discover a new level of vitality and well-being. As you fall asleep in the state of perfect contentment, you are impressing upon your subconscious mind the true seed of creative power. The belief that everything always works out for you. And as you continue this practice, night after night, you will find that your waking experiences begin to align more and more closely with your imaginal acts. But remember, my friends, this is not about escaping into fantasy. It is about recognizing the true nature of reality, that your imagination is the creative power of God within you, and that the world you experience is but an outpicturing of your own consciousness. When you act from this understanding, when you live from the state of knowing that everything always works out for you, you are not denying reality. You are creating it. You are exercising your divine right as a co-creator with the infinite. Now, Let us delve even deeper into the mechanics of this profound truth. Every experience you have ever had, every circumstance you have ever encountered, began first as a state of consciousness. Your beliefs, your assumptions, your habitual thoughts. These are the raw materials from which your reality is fashioned. When you adopt the state of consciousness, that everything always works out for you, you are essentially tuning your mental radio to a frequency of perfect harmony and divine order. And just as surely as a radio receiver picks up the signals that match its frequency, so too will your life experience begin to reflect this new state of being. But here's the crucial point, my dear listeners. You must persist in this new state. You must be willing to ignore the evidence of your physical senses when they contradict your chosen assumption. This is where many faults are on the path to mastery. They begin with great enthusiasm, declaring that everything always works out for them. But at the first sign of apparent failure or setback, they abandon their assumption and fall back into old patterns of thought. Remember, the physical world is always a few steps behind the world of imagination. There may be a time lag between your change in consciousness and its manifestation in your outer experience. During this period of transition, you must hold fast to your new assumption. You must continue to act as if everything always works out for you, even when your senses scream otherwise. This, my friends, is the true test of faith, not a blind faith in some external power, but a deep, abiding faith in the creative power of your own consciousness. It is a faith that says, though the entire world may seem to conspire against me, I know that everything is working out for my highest good. As you cultivate this faith, as you persist in the act from the state of knowing that everything always works out for you, you will begin to witness what can only be described as miracles in your life. Doors that seem forever closed will suddenly swing open. Resources that you never knew existed will make themselves available to you. People will appear in your life at just the right moment to assist you on your journey. But remember, these are not miracles in the traditional sense of the word. They are simply the natural outworking of the law of consciousness. They are the inevitable result of aligning yourself with the creative power of the universe. Now, let me address a concern that often arises when I speak on this subject. Some worry that acting as if everything always works out for them might lead to a kind of passive acceptance of undesirable circumstances. They fear that they might lose their drive to improve their lives or to right the wrongs they see in the world. To this I say, nothing could be further from the truth. When you truly embody the state of knowing that everything always works out for you, you become more empowered, not less. You approach challenges with confidence rather than fear. You take inspired action rather than reacting from a place of desperation or anxiety. Moreover, this state of being naturally aligns you with your highest purpose. You begin to see the bigger picture, to understand how even apparent setbacks are serving your ultimate good and the good of all. From this perspective, you are moved to take actions that are truly in alignment with your deepest values and aspirations. Consider for a moment the great changemakers of history, the men and women who have brought about significant positive changes in the world. Without exception, you will find that they acted from a place of unshakable faith in the rightness of their cause. They persisted in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds because they knew deep in their hearts that everything was working out for the highest good. Martin Luther King Jr., for example, faced violence, imprisonment, and constant threats to his life. Yet he continued to act from the assumption that the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice. He lived as if everything was working out not just for him personally, but for the entire civil rights movement. And indeed, his faith was vindicated, though he did not live to see the full fruits of his labor. You see, when you act as if everything always works out for you, you tap into a power that is greater than your individual self. You become a channel for the divine creative force of the universe. And in doing so, you not only transform your own life, but you become a catalyst for positive change in the world around you. But let me be clear, this is not about becoming complacent or accepting injustice. It is about approaching every situation, no matter how challenging, from a place of empowered faith rather than fear or despair. It is about knowing that you have within you the power to overcome any obstacle, to right any wrong, to create any reality you can imagine. As you continue to practice this way of being, you'll find that your very presence becomes a transformative force in the world. People will be drawn to your unwavering faith, your unshakable peace. They will sense, perhaps unconsciously, that you are tapped into a higher wisdom, a deeper truth. And as you share this truth with others, as you demonstrate through your own life that everything always works out, you become a beacon of hope in a world that so desperately needs it. You become living proof of the infinite potential that lies within each and every human being. Now, my dear friends, as we near the end of our time together, I want to leave you with a final thought. The principle we have explored tonight, that everything always works out for you, is not just a nice idea or a comforting belief. It is a fundamental truth of existence, a law as immutable as gravity itself. But like any law, it requires your conscious participation to be effective in your life. You must choose moment by moment to align yourself with this truth. You must be willing to relinquish your old beliefs, your old patterns of thought, and embrace this new way of being. It may not always be easy. There will be times when your physical senses, your rational mind, and perhaps even those around you will tell you that things are not working out. In these moments, you must be willing to stand firm in your knowing. You must be willing to say, I do not accept the appearance of things. I know that everything is working out for my highest good, even if I cannot yet see how. As you persist in this practice, as you continue to act as if everything always works out for you, you will begin to witness a transformation in your life that can only be described as miraculous. You will find yourself moving through life with a sense of ease and grace that you may have never thought possible. You will discover within yourself resources of strength, wisdom, and creativity that you never knew you possessed. But more than this, you will begin to understand your true nature, the divine being, as a co-creator with the infinite. You will realize that you are not a helpless victim of circumstance, but a powerful creator shaping your reality through the power of your consciousness. And as you step into this power, as you fully embrace your role as a conscious creator, you will find that your life becomes a living testament to the truth we have explored tonight. You will become living proof that everything always works out, not just for you, but for all of creation. So go forth, my dear friends, with this knowing deep in your heart. Act as if everything always works out for you, for indeed it does. Trust in the perfect unfolding of your life's journey, even when the path ahead seems uncertain. Know that you are guided, supported, and loved beyond measure by the very creative power of the universe itself. And remember, the world is waiting for you to step into your power, to shine your light, to demonstrate through your own life the miraculous truth that everything always works out. The world is waiting for you to become the person you were always meant to be, a conscious creator, aligned with the infinite, living a life of joy, purpose, and boundless possibility. Thank you, my dear friends, for your attention and your willingness to explore these profound truths. May you go forth and live from the knowing that everything always works out for you. And in doing so, may you inspire others to do the same. For as you transform your own life, you transform the world. And that, my beloved, is the greatest miracle of all. Let us begin by understanding what it truly means to act as if you are surrounded by abundance. Many of you may think this is about pretending or deceiving yourself, but I assure you it is far more profound than that. When I speak of acting as if, I am talking about assuming a state of consciousness, embodying a particular way of being in the world. You see, the world you experience is not separate from you. It is not an external reality happening to you. Rather, it is a reflection, an outpicturing of your consciousness, your assumptions, your beliefs, your instincts. These are the true creators of your reality, and when you act as if you are surrounded by abundance, you are assuming a state of abundance consciousness. Now, some of you may be thinking, but Wayne, how can I act as if I'm surrounded by abundance when my bank account is empty, when I'm struggling to pay my bills? And this, my dear friends, is where the true power of this principle lies. For it is precisely in those moments of apparent lack that this practice becomes most potent. You must understand that your outer world of form is nothing more than a shadow or a reflection of your inner world of consciousness. What you see around you right now, your financial situation, your relationships, your health, all of these are effects, not causes. They are the fruits of seeds planted in your consciousness in the past. To change these outer conditions, you must change the cause, which is your state of consciousness. And this is exactly what we do when we act as if we are surrounded by abundance. We are planting new seeds in the fertile soil of our consciousness, seeds that must be universal and grow into the fruits of abundance in our outer world. But let me be clear, this is not about denying your current circumstances or burying your head in the sand. It's about shifting your focus, your attention, your energy to the state of abundance you wish to experience. It's about giving more reality to your desired state than to your current conditions. So how do we begin to act as if we are surrounded by abundance? It starts with your imagination. Your imagination is not some frivolous faculty for daydreaming. It is the very workshop in which you create your reality. When you imagine yourself surrounded by abundance, you are in a very real sense experiencing that abundance now. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself in a state of complete abundance. See yourself living in the home of your dreams. Feel the satisfaction of having more than enough money to cover all your needs and desires. Experience the joy of being able to give generously to others. Make this imaginal scene as vivid and as real as possible. Now here's the crucial part. You must feel the feeling of this abundance. Feel the gratitude, the joy, the freedom that comes with being surrounded by abundance. For it is the feeling that gives life to your imaginal act. It is the feeling that impresses new state upon your subconscious mind. As you open your eyes and return to your present surroundings, carry that feeling with you. Let it infuse your thoughts, your words, your actions. This is what it means to act as if you are surrounded by abundance. You are living from the state of abundance regardless of what your current circumstances might suggest. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, Wayne, isn't this just fooling myself? Isn't this denial of reality? To this I say, what you call reality is far more fluid, far more malleable than you have been led to believe. Your physical senses show you a world of effects, but true causation lies in your consciousness. When you act as if you are surrounded by abundance, you are not denying your current circumstances. You are transcending them. You are exercising your divine power to choose the state from which you will live. And as you persist in this new state, your outer world must reshape itself to match your inner conviction. Let us delve deeper into the practical application of this principle. How do you maintain this state of abundance consciousness in your daily life? It begins with your thoughts and your inner conversations. Pay attention to how you think and talk about abundance. Do you constantly focus on what you lack? Do you worry about not having enough? These thoughts and inner conversations are assumptions of scarcity, and they would perpetuate a reality of lack. Instead, consciously choose thoughts and inner conversations that align with abundance. When you look at your bank account, instead of focusing on how little there is, feel gratitude for what you do have. When you pay a bill, instead of feeling resentment or worry, feel appreciation for the services you've received and for your ability to pay. Your words, too, are crucial in this process. The words you speak are like seeds planted in the fertile soil of the universe. Be mindful of the language you use around abundance. Eliminate phrases like, I can't afford it or money is tight. Instead, use empowering statements like, I always have more than enough or abundance flows to me easily and frequently. Remember, these are not mere affirmations of positive thinking techniques. They are assumptions, states of being that you are choosing to intone. Speak them with conviction, feeling the truth of them in your very being. Now, let us address a crucial aspect of acting, as if you are surrounded by abundance, your self-concept. Your self-concept is the sum total of all your beliefs about who you are. And this self-concept is perhaps the most powerful assumption you hold. Many people struggle to experience abundance because their self-concept contradicts the state of abundance. They may visualize having plenty, but deep down, they don't believe they are the kind of person who can be abundant. They may have limiting beliefs like, I don't deserve abundance, or abundance is for other people, not for me. To truly embody the state of abundance, you must be willing to revise your self-concept. You must be willing to see yourself as someone who is naturally abundant, who easily attracts plenty, who deserves to live in a state of overflow. This is not about creating a false image of yourself, but about recognizing and embracing your true, limitless nature. You see, at your true, limitless nature, you see, at your core, you are pure consciousness. You are not defined by your past experiences, your current bank balance, or the opinions of others about abundance. You are the awareness in which all these things appear. And this awareness, your true self, is infinite in its potential, including its potential for abundance. When you truly grasp this truth, when you begin to identify with your essential nature rather than your temporary circumstances, you open yourself to limitless abundance. Your subconscious mind, no longer constrained by limiting beliefs, becomes free to manifest the abundant reality you choose to assume. So, how do you revise your self-concept to align with abundance? The process is similar to assuming any new state of being. You must vividly imagine yourself as a naturally abundant person. Feel what it's like to be that person. How do they think about resources? How do they make decisions? How do they carry themselves? But remember, this is not about creating a caricature of an abundant person based on societal stereotypes. It's about recognizing and embracing your own unique expression of abundance. You are not becoming someone else. You are becoming more fully yourself, a self that is naturally abundant and overflowing with plenty. As you persistently imagine and feel yourself as this abundant version of you, your subconscious mind will begin to accept this as your new reality. And as your subconscious accepts it, you will naturally begin to think, feel, and act in alignment with this new abundant self-concept. Now, let us address another powerful tool in assuming the state of abundance, the use of I am statements. The words I am are incredibly potent. They are, in essence, your definition of yourself. Whatever follows I am is impressed upon your subconscious mind as a truth about your identity. Many people unconsciously use I am statements in ways that perpetuate lack. I am broke. I am struggling. I am always short on money. Each time you make such a statement, you are programming your subconscious mind to create more of that experience. To assume the state of abundance, you must become acutely aware of your I am statements and consciously choose ones that align with plenty and overflow. I am abundant. I am a magnet for prosperity. I am always provided for. I am surrounded by infinite resources. But remember, it's not just about the words. You must feel the truth of these statements as you say them. Your subconscious mind responds to feeling, not just to words. So, when you say, I am abundant, feel the security, the freedom, the joy of being abundant. When you say, I am a magnet for prosperity, feel the excitement of good things constantly flowing into your life. As you consistently use I am statements in this way, you are literally reprogramming your subconscious mind. You are impressing upon it a new concept of who you are in relation to abundance, and your subconscious mind will work tirelessly to make this new self-concept your reality. Now, let us explore another powerful technique for assuming the state of abundance. The practice of living in the end. This involves mentally dwelling in the state of your wish fulfilled, living as if you are already surrounded by abundance. To practice living in the end, you must create a mental scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire for abundance. This scene should be one that would naturally occur if you were already living in a state of overflow. Perhaps it's the feeling of making a large donation to a cause you care about, or the joy of treating your friends to a lavish dinner without concern for the cost, or the satisfaction of seeing your savings account grow effortlessly. Create this scene in your imagination with as much detail as possible. See it clearly. Hear the sounds associated with it. Feel the emotions you would feel. Then enter into this scene in your imagination. Don't just watch it as a spectator, but experience it from the first-person perspective. Be there in that moment, feeling the reality of being surrounded by abundance. Now, here's the crucial part. You must return to this scene repeatedly. Dwell in it, make it more real to you than your current circumstances. The more you live in this imaginal scene, the more real it becomes to your subconscious mind. And remember, your subconscious doesn't distinguish between what you vividly imagine and what you physically experience. As you persist in living in the end, you may notice changes in your outer world. Opportunities for increase may appear. Your relationship with resources may begin to shift. You may find yourself making different decisions about money and possessions. These are all signs that your new assumption is taking root, reshaping your reality to match your inner conviction of abundance. But here's a word of caution. Do not look for signs. Do not try to figure out how your assumption of abundance will manifest. Your job is simply to assume the state of being abundant, to live from that state in your imagination. The how, the when, the where of its manifestation is not your concern. That belongs to the infinite intelligence of the universe. Now let us address a crucial aspect of assuming the state of abundance, the role of action. Some people mistakenly believe that acting as if you are surrounded by abundance means you can simply imagine plenty and then sit back and wait for weight to magically appear. This is not the case. Acting as if you are surrounded by abundance does not negate action. It informs action. When you truly assume the state of abundance, you will naturally be inspired to take actions that align with that state. You may feel compelled to start a new project, to invest in yourself, to give generously to others. These inspired actions flow naturally from your assumed state. The key difference is that these actions are not driven by fear, lack, or the need to get abundance. They are expressions of your assumed state of plenty. You take these actions not to become abundant, but because you are operating from the assumption that you are already abundant. This is a subtle but crucial distinction. When you take action from a place of lack, trying to get abundance, you are actually affirming the assumption of not having enough. But when you take action from the assumption of already being abundant, you open yourself to infinite possibilities for the expression and expansion of that abundance. So do not neglect action, but ensure that your actions are aligned with and flowing from your assumed state of abundance. Let your assumption guide your actions rather than hoping your actions will create the assumption. Now, let us discuss the importance of gratitude in acting as if you are surrounded by abundance. Gratitude is not just a pleasant emotion. It is a powerful creative force. When you feel grateful, you are affirming that you already have what you desire. This aligns perfectly with the principle of acting as if. Begin to cultivate an attitude of gratitude for abundance even before you see it manifested in your physical reality. Be thankful for the resources you currently have, no matter how little they may seem. Be grateful for every opportunity to receive or give. Feel appreciation for the abundance that surrounds you in all forms. The air you breathe, the sun that shines, the food you eat. As you practice gratitude, you are assuming the state of someone who has plenty, someone who is abundantly provided for. This assumption, persistently held, must manifest in your outer world as increased abundance in all areas of your life. Remember, the feeling of gratitude and the feeling of lack cannot coexist. By cultivating gratitude, you are effectively ignoring the apparent reality of limitation and assuming the state of abundance and plenty. Now, let us address a common challenge in acting as if you are surrounded by abundance, dealing with contradictory evidence. As you begin to assume the state of abundance, you may find that your current circumstances seem to contradict your assumption. Bills may still need to be paid. Financial pressures may still exist. How do you maintain your assumption in the face of these seeming contradictions? This is where the art of ignoring reality comes into play. Remember, what you see in your outer world is the result of past assumptions. It is like an echo of what you once believed. Your task now is to give more attention, more importance, more reality to your new assumption of abundance than to its outdated circumstances. When contradictory evidence appears, acknowledge it briefly, then immediately return your attention to your assumption of abundance. Say to yourself, this is an old condition passing away. It has no power over my new assumption. I am now surrounded by abundance, provided for in all ways. This practice requires mental discipline. It requires you to stand firm in your new assumption, even when your senses argue against it. But remember, your senses only show you what has been, not what can be. Your imagination, informed by your assumption, shows you what will be. As you persist in your assumption of abundance, even in the face of contradictory evidence, you will begin to see changes in your outer world. These changes may start small: an unexpected gift, a good deal on something unique, a new opportunity to increase your resources. Do not dismiss these as coincidences. They are the first fruits of your new assumption taking root. Now let us explore the concept of detachment in relation to acting as if you are surrounded by abundance. Detachment does not mean you don't care about experiencing abundance. Rather, it means you are not anxiously attached to the outcome or the process of manifesting abundance. When you are detached, you are secure in your assumption of abundance. You don't need constant outer confirmation because you know the truth of your assumption. You don't anxiously look for signs or try to force manifestations because you trust in the perfect unfolding of your assumption. Detachment allows you to enjoy the journey of experiencing abundance without stress or worry. It enables you to take inspired action without being desperate for results. It frees you from the fear of loss because you know that your true abundance comes from your consciousness, not from external circumstances. Practice detachment by reminding yourself that your assumption of abundance is the reality regardless of what your current situation might show. Trust that as you maintain your assumption, your outer world must conform to it. Be at peace knowing that your abundance is assured by the power of your assumption. Now, let us address the role of persistence in acting as if you are surrounded by abundance. Assuming a new state, especially one that seems far from your current experience, requires persistent effort. You must be willing to persist in your new assumption even when the outer world seems unchanged, even when doubts arise, even when others question your sanity. Remember, the reality you see around you is the fruit of seeds planted in the past. As you assume the state of being surrounded by abundance, you are planting new seeds. These seeds need time to grow. Your persistence in maintaining your assumption is what waters these seeds and allows them to flourish. Do not be discouraged if you don't see immediate results. Do not waver in your assumption if your circumstances don't change overnight. Persistence is key. Return again and again to your assumption of abundance. Leave from that state consistently, persistently, faithfully. It's also important to persist through the doubts and fears that may arise. As you assume a state of abundance that is vastly different from your current experience, your old beliefs and fears may surface. This is natural. Acknowledge these doubts when they arise, but do not give them power. Instead, gently but firmly return to your assumption of abundance. Now, let us discuss the importance of feeling and acting as if you are surrounded by abundance. Feeling is the secret of creation. It's not enough to intellectually know that you are assuming a state of abundance. You must feel it. You must experience the emotion of being abundant. What does abundance feel like to you? Is it a feeling of security, of freedom, of joy, of peace of mind? Whatever it is, you must capture that feeling and live in it. Make it your constant companion. Let it inform your thoughts, your words, your actions. Remember, your subconscious mind doesn't understand words as much as it understands feelings. When you consistently feel abundant, you are sending a powerful message to your subconscious that this is your reality. And your subconscious, being the faithful servant it is, will work tirelessly to bring about circumstances that match this feeling. As you go through your day, constantly check in with your feelings. Are you feeling abundant? If not, pause and recall the feeling of abundance. Immerse yourself in it. Let it permeate your being. This constant return to the feeling of abundance is crucial in maintaining your assumption. Now let us address a common pitfall in the journey of assuming abundance: the temptation to compare yourself with others. In today's world, with social media constantly showcasing the abundance of others, it's easy to fall into the trap of comparison. But remember, comparison is the thief of joy. And more importantly, it can undermine your assumption of abundance. When you compare yourself to others, you are implicitly assuming a state of lack. You are focusing on what you don't have rather than on the abundance you are assuming. This sends a conflicting message to your subconscious mind and can slow down or even reverse your progress. Instead of comparing yourself to others, focus on your own journey. Celebrate your own progress, no matter how small it may seem. Remember, you are not in competition with anyone else. Your journey to abundance is unique to you. Trust in your own assumption and in the perfect unfolding of your desires. Let us now explore the concept of giving as it relates to acting as if you are surrounded by abundance. Many people believe that they will give when they have abundance. But this is backwards thinking. Giving is not a result of abundance. It is a cause of abundance. When you give, you are acting from a state of plenty. You are assuming that you have more than enough to share. This assumption, this feeling of having more than enough, is precisely what creates more abundance in your life. So begin to give now from whatever you have. It doesn't have to be money. You can give your time, your attention, your love, your skills. The amount is not important. What's important is the feeling behind the giving, the feeling that you have more than enough to share. As you give, feel the joy of sharing. Feel the satisfaction of being able to make a difference in someone's life. Feel the abundance that allows you to give freely. These feelings are powerful assumptions that will manifest more abundance in your life. Now let us discuss the role of receptivity in acting as if you are surrounded by abundance. Many people focus solely on giving, believing that this is the key to abundance and why giving is crucial. It is only half of the equation. To truly live in a state of abundance, you must also be open to receiving. Being receptive means being willing to accept the good that comes to you. It means allowing others to give to you, to help you, to support you. It means acknowledging and accepting compliments, opportunities, and blessings that come your way. Many people struggle with receiving. They feel unworthy or uncomfortable accepting help or gifts from others. But remember, in the infinite flow of abundance, giving and receiving are two sides of the same coin. By allowing yourself to receive graciously, you are completing the circuit of abundance. Practice being receptive by saying thank you when someone offers you a compliment or a gift. Accept help when it's offered. Look for the ways in which the universe is attempting to bless you and be open to receiving those blessings. Now let us explore the concept of circulation as it relates to abundance. Abundance, like all energy, thrives on circulation. When you allow abundance to flow free through your life, both in giving and receiving, you create a powerful current that attracts more abundance to you. Think of abundance like a river. If a river is dammed up, it becomes stagnant. But when it's allowed to flow freely, it remains fresh and vibrant. The same is true of abundance in your life. When you hold tightly to what you have out of fear of loss, you dam up the flow of abundance. But when you allow it to circulate freely, giving joyfully and receiving graciously, you keep the flow of abundance strong and vital. So look for ways to keep abundance circulating in your life. Spend money wisely but without fear. Give generously but without depleting yourself. Receive openly but without greed. As you do this, you are acting as if you are surrounded by abundance, and your outer world will reshape itself to match this assumption. Now let us address the importance of language and acting as if you are surrounded by abundance. The words you use both in your inner dialogue and in your conversations with others are powerful tools for shaping your reality. They are, in essence, declarations to the universe about your state of being. Begin to pay attention to the language you use around abundance. You often use phrases like, "I can't afford it," "it's too expensive," or "I never have enough." These phrases are declarations of lack, and they reinforce a state of scarcity in your consciousness. Instead, choose language that aligns with your assumption of abundance. Replace "I can't afford it" with "I'm choosing to spend my money elsewhere right now." Instead of "it's too expensive," say "it's not in my budget at the moment." Rather than "I never have enough," affirm "I always have more than enough." Remember, this is not about denying your current financial reality. It's about choosing language that leaves room for abundance, that assumes a state of plenty, even when making decisions about how to allocate your resources. As you shift your language, you'll find that your perception of your circumstances begins to shift as well. You'll start to see opportunities where before you saw only limitations. You'll feel a sense of choice and empowerment where before you felt scarcity and constraint. Now let us delve into the role of imagination in acting as if you are surrounded by abundance. Your imagination is not just a faculty for daydreaming or fantasizing. It is the very workshop in which you create your reality. When you imagine yourself surrounded by abundance, you are in a very real sense experiencing that abundance now. Take time each day to use your imagination deliberately. Close your eyes and create vivid mental images of yourself living in abundance. See yourself easily paying your bills, generously giving to causes you care about, enjoying experiences that you desire. Feel the emotions associated with these experiences, the joy, the freedom, the security. As you engage in these imaginal acts, remember that to your subconscious mind, there is no difference between what you vividly imagine and what you actually experience in the physical world. By consistently imagining scenes implying your desired state of abundance, you are impressing the state upon your subconscious mind, which must then work to bring these conditions into your physical reality. Let us now explore the concept of gratitude as it relates to acting as if you are surrounded by abundance. Gratitude is not just a pleasant emotion or social nicety. It is a powerful creative force. When you feel genuinely grateful, you are affirming that you already have what you desire. This aligns perfectly with the principle of acting as if. Begin to cultivate an attitude of gratitude for abundance, even before you see it manifested in your physical reality. Be thankful for the resources you currently have, no matter how little they may seem. Be grateful for every opportunity to receive or give. Feel appreciation for the abundance that surrounds you in all forms. The air you breathe, the sun that shines, the food you eat. As you practice gratitude, you are assuming the state of someone who has plenty, someone who is abundantly provided for. This assumption, persistently held, must manifest in your outer world as increased abundance in all areas of your life. Now let us address the role of trust in acting as if you are surrounded by abundance. Trust is a crucial component of this practice. You must trust in the law of assumption. You must trust that as you assume a state of abundance, your outer world will conform to this inner conviction. This trust is not blind faith. It is a confidence born of understanding. Understanding that your consciousness is the one and only reality, that your assumptions shape your world. As you deepen this understanding through study and application, your trust in the process will grow. Trust allows you to remain calm and assured even when your outer circumstances seem to contradict your assumption of abundance. It enables you to persist in your assumption, knowing that the manifestation of your desire is assured by universal law. Cultivate this trust by reminding yourself of past experiences where your assumptions have manifested. Reflect on the times when you've seen the law working in your life, even in small ways. Let these experiences build your confidence in the process. Now let us explore the concept of detachment as it relates to acting as if you are surrounded by abundance. Detachment does not mean you don't care about experiencing abundance. Rather, it means you're not anxiously attached to the outcome or the process of manifesting abundance. When you are detached, you are securing your assumption of abundance. You don't need constant outer confirmation because you know the truth of your assumption. You don't anxiously look for signs or try to force manifestations because you trust in the perfect unfolding of your assumption. Detachment allows you to enjoy the journey of experiencing abundance without stress or worry. It enables you to take inspired action without being desperate for results. It frees you from the fear of loss because you know that your abundance comes from your consciousness, not from external circumstance. Practice detachment by reminding yourself that your assumption of abundance is the reality, regardless of what your current situation might show. Trust that as you maintain your assumption, your outer world must conform to it. Be at peace knowing that your abundance is assured by the power of your assumption. As we near the conclusion of our discussion, let us reflect on the ultimate purpose of acting as if you are surrounded by abundance. While material prosperity is certainly enjoyable and can provide many opportunities, the true power of this practice lies in the freedom it provides. Freedom to be more full of yourself, to express your gifts, to contribute to the world in meaningful ways. As you act as if you are surrounded by abundance, you may find that your definition of abundance expands. You may discover that true abundance encompasses not just material wealth, but also richness in relationships, in experiences, in personal growth, in the ability to make a positive impact on the world. Embrace this expanded definition of abundance. Let your assumption of being surrounded by abundance infuse all areas of your life with richness and plenty. Assume a state of abundance in love, in health and wisdom, in joy. For in doing so, you are assuming the state of your highest, most abundant self. In closing, my dear friends, remember this: you are not bound by your current circumstances. You are not limited by your past experiences with scarcity. You are a divine, infinite being capable of assuming any state you choose. The state of being surrounded by abundance is available to you right now in this very moment. Choose it, assume it, live from it. Ignore the contradictory evidence of your senses and persist in your assumption. For as you do, you are reshaping your entire world. You are stepping into the full power of your divine creativity. Go forth from here with this knowledge. Apply these principles in your daily life. Be aware of your thoughts, your feelings, your assumptions about abundance. Use your imagination consciously and deliberately to live as if you are already surrounded by abundance. Persist in your assumption, even when the outer world seems to contradict it. And above all, have faith, faith in the law, faith in the process, faith in your own divine nature as a creative being. For as you master the art of acting as if you are surrounded by abundance, you step into your true power as the author of your life story. Remember, the power to change your reality lies within you. It always has. You are not bound by economic conditions, by your background, or by your current bank balance. You are bound only by the limits of your imagination and your willingness to assume the state of being surrounded by abundance. Embrace this truth. live from this understanding, and watch as your world transforms around you, reflecting the newfound abundance you have assumed into being. Thank you, and may your journey of conscious creation be filled with infinite abundance, joy, and the thrill of manifesting your most abundant, expansive self.